And good morning, everybody. How are you? Hello, Rue. Hello, Judy. Good to see you. Bonnie, good to see you. Chezzy, Danielle, and everybody else that I said hello to before we came on. How is everybody doing? Hope you can see me really well. I can see you. Hey, Irene, good morning. Let's go ahead and get started. Yeehaw, Rue, Judy said. Greetings and good morning, all. Hey, Sissy, good to see you. So let me go ahead and read out of Psalm 43, just Psalm 43, and then we will get started. Blessed is he who considers the poor. The Lord will deliver him in time of trouble. The Lord will preserve him and keep him alive, and he will be blessed on the earth. You will not deliver him to the will of his enemies. The Lord will strengthen him on his bed of illness. You will sustain him on his sick bed. Amen. Amen. All right. We have a lot to talk about today. Can see you just fine. Yay. All right. Now, I do want to remind you that I will be out all next week. We will be here tomorrow, and then I will be on vacation all next week. So, just a little reminder, and I'll try to remember to remind you tomorrow as well. And now I got a couple of questions from the questions for Susan. And as you remember, and while I'm out on vacation, this will be a perfect time for everybody to get your questions in. Just go to Susan at susanknowles.com. That's my email. And you can send me an email there. In the subject line, put question for Susan. So I will make sure that I see them in all of the emails I get each day. I get a ton. So just so you know, I need that. Okay. So we have a first question, and I want to go ahead and start answering those questions before we get to the news. So hopefully those who just want to jump right into the news won't mind that we talk about these questions. Okay. Question number one: how does one stay strong in faith through trials? Now, I want you to be thinking about the things that you can offer suggestions on maybe what you've done, and especially like you, Robin. If you could offer some of your suggestions, and when you were going through some trials pretty recently enough, I'm sure that you could talk about some of the things that you did. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that came up, but feel free, everybody, to go ahead and sort of offer your suggestions on, how does one stay strong in faith through Christ? A couple things I think that we need to remember. There's no guarantee that being a Christian will shield you from all suffering, right? For example, of the 12 apostles, only one died a natural death. And ultimately, our trials and tribulations and things that we go through is about fulfilling God's purpose and his plans for your life. I think also one of the things, hey, Angie, good to see you. One of the things that we have to remember is we need to look at the reason God puts us through trials and remember that Christ was put through the ultimate trial. So whatever we're going through, Christ went through a gazillion times worse, right? And he is the Son of God, and he was put through trials, right? And I think that we have to remember that, because sometimes we feel that we're in this alone, and we're not. And we know that Christ has gone before us in these things. Ruth said a lot of times trials are to get closer to him. Robin said, I stayed in God's word daily. Prayer was so important. Gosh, God's word sustained me through it all. Good morning, Tim. Good to see you. Very good. Very good. Also, I think you have to remember that part of the trials is part of our sanctification. And sanctification means, to be set apart for a special use or purpose. And for example, I've known people that have had cancer and have gone into the hospital, and God used them in that hospital to reach people that they ordinarily would not have been able to reach. So I do know that, part of us, our trials are to sanctify us, to use us for God's purpose, to make us holy, be a vessel of the Holy Spirit. Also, as somebody had mentioned, Christians suffer so that they can become closer to God and closer to the character of Christ, being more Christ-like. Also, I think, we hear about sanctification, and I believe this a lot, that it prepares followers of Christ for the glory of heaven. God, I think, is preparing us for the eventual rapture, whenever how close that may be, or how far away that may be. Let's see. I find Thanksgiving praise and worship energize me, Judy said. Chesney said James chapter 1, verses 2 through 8. And we have to remember too that all that is done, right, is for the benefit, our benefit, and for the glory of God. And we suffer, unfortunately, because of mankind's fall to sin, fall from grace from the very beginning. So we do suffer. People sometimes suffer because they make the wrong choices, the wrong decisions, and it's hard for us to kind of look at that and go, how do we have faith? Well, yeah, you have to kind of look at what's going on and what got you there. Also, when people suffer and they go through trials, it can bring them into a deeper understanding and a deeper relationship with God. And I think sometimes too, God allows us to go through trials that we go through in order to make people want to return to him, or come to him in the first place and repent and not perish, and live eternity in hell. And I think, as Robin said, you read the Bible. Another thing that you can do is you can ask people for prayers. Know that God is with you throughout the whole thing. And again, I think one of the most important things, that it draws you closer to God. Bruce said fasting. Sally, good morning, Sally. Robin said he tells us in his word we will face trials. It did draw me closer to him. 2 Corinthians 4:16 through 18 was a go-to scripture, Robin said. Perseverance, the Lord gave me this. I won't give up. I won't give in. I will fight and I will win, Angie said. Now, the second question is, how does one stop from getting mad at God for allowing things going on in our country? I think, Pastor Jack was talking about this last night, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, remember that all kings and kingdoms will eventually bow to God, right? So all of the things that are going on, all the injustice that we see, all the things that were happening, we're questioning why. Remember that God will, in his timing, put an end to everything, and every knee will bow to God. And I think that should give us comfort. One of the things, Judy said, the miracles that have happened in my family so far are astounding. Every member of my family closer to God. That's absolutely amazing, Judy. And again, that is a purpose for going through the trial, it's all for the glory of God and to bring people closer. And you just said that's happening in your family, and that's amazing. I think one thing too, when we look at how that things are happening in the world, and we think, why is God allowing this to continue? Why? I think we first, and I had to do this, I had to come to the realization of this, and I don't necessarily think that I really liked coming to this, this realization, but I think we have to look inward and see how we have contributed to what is happening in our own families, in our own lives, and in our society, in our country, and in the world. Because everything that we do and somebody else does, as collectively, it adds to and brings about some of the things that we are seeing. So look first at how you are living your life. Are you trying to follow biblical principles? Are you, is there immorality in your life? Are there things that you need to change? And have you repented for the sins that you are committing? Morning from Fort Worth, Texas. Barbara, good morning. Bruce said, if you didn't know sorrows, you couldn't appreciate perfect peace, for sure. Absolutely. And then see after you've looked inward, see how our society is contributing to what's going on. Look at abortion, again, immoral behavior, murder, theft, rape, all of those things that society is doing is contributing to the further demise of things that go on in our country. And why doesn't God stop this? He gives us free will and the choice that we make. The choices that we make are either good ones, bad ones, ungodly, godly. And we have to look at our behavior and not look at God and go, why are you allowing it? Maybe God's response is, why did you cause it to happen? And also, I think that when we see the breakdown in society and we see things that are going on, again, this is an opportunity that God gives everyone to repent of their sins and turn to Him. It's a choice. And sometimes people don't like to hear it, but it is a choice. Ruth said he never said you wouldn't have trials. He said he would always walk with you through them. Yes. Hey, Bill, good to see you. Judy said, I remember a time when we used to protect abortions. We don't do that so much anymore. No, there's like 62 million people have been aborted so far, children. I can't wrap my head around that. That's just that number. We talk about 9/11, 3,000 plus people died, and we thought that was the worst figure in the world, which it was. But then you compare that to 62 million people that have died since Roe versus Wade. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Good, joyful morning, Candy. Good to see you. There's a purpose for everything God allows. Exactly, Robin. Good word at Rue. Good morning, Keith. Good to see you. Good morning, Ken. How are you? So I hope that answered your questions. And if anybody else has, thank you, Chesney, for sharing on Facebook. If anybody else has anything to add to what we've been talking about before we move on, please do. And again, I hope that answered your questions that you asked. And please, do send more, send more questions each and every day. And again, while I'm out on vacation next week, it'll be a good time to get all of your questions in to Susan@SusanKnowles.com. And in the subject line, put questions for Susan, and then we'll read your questions here, and then we'll talk about them as well. Sally said they still sit out in front of an abortion clinic here in Mount Juliet every day. Ruth said all things are to glorify Him, even sorrows. Candy said struggles are good for us. Struggles build our faith and patience. So, yeah. And I think also struggles help us really to see all who God is and all who God can have us be, and help us be, and what He can do in our lives that maybe we take for granted. Nice job, family. This was great. Thanks, Judy. So, all right, let's move on to the news. Yesterday at Superior Court, I watched the whole hearing for Larry Elder, who is running for governor of California in the recall. Sally said, we face trials when God is increasing our territory. And Daniel said, I don't agree with Ruth. Sorrow does not glorify God. Oh, Rue said that. Well, everything that God does is for His glory. So I think maybe that's what she meant. I'm not sure. Okay. So Larry Elder running for the recall in California, running for governor, and he had turned in all of his paperwork, all his tax returns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then he was told by the Secretary of State that he could not have his name on the ballot. And I think one or two other candidates were told the same thing. Well, a Superior Court judge said, number one, that this recall is not under the same rules as a regular primary. Therefore, Larry probably didn't even need to turn in his tax returns. I think he gave tax returns for the last 5 years, and he said about 300 pages or so of documents, which is absolutely insane. And I don't think that the current governor would have had to comply with that. He didn't have to turn in anything, of course. And so the court just said, no, sorry, this is not a primary. He didn't really have to turn in those documents, but he did. That's fine. But his name must be put on the ballot because he complied. Good morning, Brian. Good to see you. How are you? Let's see. Ruth said all things were made. Let me see that through him, and all for him all means are. Yes. He obviously was telling the truth. He called them out. Yeah. Chiming in late. Hey, Wanda. How you handle sorrow glorifies God. Barbara said, absolutely, Barbara. Larry will fight very hard to win. Just watch. And again, I say to the people of California, I know you want Kevin Kiley. Right now, Kevin Kiley, from what I understand, Larry Elder is way out ahead. And we can't, in some type of loyalty, say, oh my gosh, I got to go with Kevin. If you do that and you don't get behind one candidate, we will have Newsom at the end of all of this. And Newsom will punish California. You can guarantee it. And also, let me just tell everybody who's watching that is not from California, you can go to electelder.com. That's electelder. I'm putting it in here. .com. And whether you live in California or not, you can donate to his campaign. Remember that Newsom has all the unions behind him, all the big money behind him. Why should you, outside of California, want to give to Larry Elder so he can be governor of California? Well, maybe Larry can help turn things around. In addition, I will tell you that the powers that be, they want Newsom to be president of the United States. So you're going to see this guy in 2024 unless you retire him in this recall. So it's to your benefit outside of California and to everybody's benefit inside California to elect Elder and get rid of Gavin Newsom once and for all. And he still may rear his ugly head in 2024, but at least it won't be as governor. And he is, he's going on to more and more to try and destroy California, even as he is facing this recall. Let me bring this up for you and show you his latest. And this is, I'm talking about Newsom now. Let's see. Where is it? Okay, Lance. There we go. All right. So this was from Lance Christensen. Massive government handouts taking from one Californian to give to a non-Californian with significant problems the family and states or countries couldn't properly address for whatever reason is not the California dream for those who have to subsidize a broken program. Why does he say that? Gavin Newsom was asked if homelessness money could be a magnet for the unhoused. And he said, to the extent that new people here from all income levels, part of the California dream. No, not really. And he's giving more and more and more money to illegals. And now he wants to give more money to homelessness. We have given money to California for homelessness. That money is never used properly. And we still have a worse homeless problem than we did before the money, right? So Pastor Jack talked about this last night. And, Pastor Jack is for Larry Elder. He's one of the people that asked Larry Elder to run for governor of California. And he says that the churches should be dealing with the homeless problem. And he said, let the states, like especially California, be hands off. Let the churches deal with homelessness so they can clear it. And then if those people, homeless people don't want the help, and then the government can step in and they can help them. But if the churches, it really should be a church function, because the state is always going to misuse money in a Democrat state anyway, and probably in a Rhino state. Sally said, Danielle said, yuck, not God's will for Newsom to be president. Well, who knows, Danielle? Newsom reminds me of the devil in the Stephen King movie, The Stand. Sally said, I predict Elder 2032 for president, Ken said. Newsom needs to be removed yesterday, Danielle said. And yeah, I know. You changed your name, Rue. Hey, Melanie, good to see you. Melanie, we answered some questions at the very beginning, so you may want to go back and watch this later. All right, so I want you to see this. This is from yesterday. It's really pathetic and sad, but this is what we're living with. And I sort of title this, boy, this is the leader of the free world. Doesn't it help you sleep at night? So let me bring this up, and here we go.
That's underway, just like the other question that's illogical. And I've heard you speak about it because you always, I'm not being solicitous, but you're always straight up about what you're doing. And the question is whether or not we should be in a position where you are. Why can't the experts say we know that this virus is in fact it's going to be, or excuse me, we know why all the drugs approved are not temporarily approved but permanently approved. Yeah. That's underway too. I expect that to occur quickly.
Well, that means you mean for the FDA?
For the FDA, yeah. That's underway, just like the other question.
I mean, totally. Could you understand what he was saying? I couldn't. That couldn't be more clear. Barbara said if the church tries to feed them or help them, the state slaps them with a bunch of regulations. And Barbara, that's why the Pastor Hibbs said it should be left to the churches. The state shouldn't have anything on to do with it. And that's why he wants that to come out of the hands of the state, be taken away from them and given to the churches. I'd rather be Hadessa, Ruth said, I have to share this testimony. When I drank, it would come up through my nose. I thank God the few times it didn't. Now it almost never does. It might seem like it's small. It's huge to me. Well, no, it's huge when it's happening to you as a person, Judy. Everybody else may look at it and go, well, that's small. Not when it affects you, when it's personal and you can have something that's happening to you. It makes a big difference. Totally incoherent. Tim said, yeah, I saw a meme that said, had he been replaced with a robot? And I said, no, because a robot would have been coherent. Lemon did his best to fake understanding Biden and even put a few words in his mouth. Lemon was sitting there wondering, how is this going to impact my ratings? I think that was probably what he was thinking. And Sally said, well, Judy, that is huge, huge. Praise God. Now, let me give you something else that the leader of the free world said yesterday, that this one ought to make you sort of stand up and take notice and say, wow. Okay, let me start this again. And here we go.
Involved. Actually, crime is down. Gun violence and murder rates are up. Guns. I'm the only guy that ever got passed legislation when I was a senator to make sure we eliminated assault weapons. The idea you need a weapon that can have the ability to fire 20, 30, 40, 50, 120 shots from that weapon, whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle, is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things, but I'm not likely to get that done in the near term. So here's what I've done. The people who, in fact, are using those weapons are acquiring them illegally. And so what happens is I've gotten ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. I have them increase their budget and increase their capacity, along with the Justice Department, to go after the gun shops that are not abiding by the law of doing background checks. For real, that's number one.
For real, dogs, for real. But look at this where it says with Matt Walsh, there it is. Biden outright says he wants to ban handguns. He was talking about 9mm. He also says crime is down, which is an utterly insane lie. Yeah, for him, it's just another day. All crime is way up. Tim said, absolutely. Or he said it's too funny. Somebody put a little kid's voice who couldn't spit his words out over Biden's voice. He needs a drug injection in his program is stuck. Sally said, good morning, Kathy. Good to see you. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's the same old thing where, every day we just see things going downhill, and it's we need to continue to pray, and we need to continue to stand up and speak the truth. Now, this is Josh Rogan, who is from the, I'll show you where he's from, Washington Post columnist, CNN political analyst. He is not, I would say, clearly, he's a liberal. And what does it say here? Wait a minute. I have to go back. He said, hey guys, Rand Paul was right and Dr. Fauci Ching was wrong. The NIH was funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan, but NIH pretended it didn't meet their gain-of-function definition to avoid their own oversight mechanism. Sorry, not sorry, if that doesn't fit your favorite narrative. Again, you have a liberal who's even admitting it was gain-of-function. Dr. Fauci Ching lied. And, but how many times has he lied? How many times has he lied? We also, this is from Emerald Robinson. Let me put this up for you. Basically, Senator Rand Paul has announced that he's sending a criminal referral to the DOJ to investigate Dr. Fauci Ching for the crime of lying to Congress. What's going to happen with that? I would say nothing. I wish I could say, oh my gosh, I think that the DOJ is going to get on that and they're going to bring Fauci Ching up and they're going to investigate him and blah, blah, blah. No, I don't think so. And this is more like just talk, talk, same as always. Dr. Doom cannot keep his lies straight, Barbara said. And it doesn't matter if he can or not, Barbara. He gets away with it. So it doesn't really matter. He could sit right on TV and lie right at you, which he does. Nobody cares. Me too, Susan. Nothing is right. Right. True DOJ is crooked, Danielle said. Let's see. Go back and look at some of these. Every time he lies when he opens his mouth and the media lets him. Well, the media not only lets him, they support him and they push him. Hey, Paula, good to see you. Paula, go back and listen to the replay afterwards. We answered some questions you might be interested in hearing. Pretty sure Dr. Ching doesn't know the truth if it slapped him on the face. Well, he hasn't had to know the truth since he's been there working since 1984. Again, I say you can find a video of Dr. Fauci Ching saying anything you want to hear. Yeah. And again, if you go back and look at that article in the New England Journal of Medicine that he wrote in March of 2020, he called this whole thing just a virus that's a little bit worse than the flu. So I didn't see a correction made by him or anyone else of that. Reminds me of all the meaningless trials we've watched with true evidence, Sally said. Yeah. Ken said the DOJ will just pour cold water on the Paul request and give Dr. Fauci Ching a slap on the wrist at best. He won't even get a slap on the wrist. He won't get that. And now they're calling, here's the thing. We sit there, we don't do anything with Fauci Ching, right? And so there's somebody in Congress, I forget who it was. It doesn't matter because they don't do anything, so it's not worth the name of remembering it. But now they want President Trump. Oh, Trump needs to come in and talk to Congress about what happened on January 6th. And I know, kind of going over to January 6th, that whole thing, that whole committee, what's going on, what they want to do, that is all about bringing in President Trump, having somebody say President Trump told them to go and do this, so that what he said incited them to go and do this. Why are they doing this? Because they don't want him ever to be able to come back. They want to say he's a criminal, he incited riots, he can never be president again. That's all this whole thing is about. And if you watched anything yesterday, Kevin McCarthy, gave some names of people, members for the committee. I don't know why he would even participate. Why are you participating? But he did. He gave a couple of names, and immediately Pelosi, oh, no Jim Banks, no Jim Jordan. They like Trump too much, so we can't have those people. So in other words, let me translate. Only those people who hate President Trump and wouldn't give him a fair trial or committee or whatever in the first place, that's the only people that she wants sitting on the committee. It's like saying we're going to talk about, and issues that are pertinent to Black people, but we're going to allow only white people or only Asian people or only Hispanics to sit on a committee, right? It's the same thing, but nobody sees it that way, right? I cannot even say the liar's name because of censorship on BoobTube, Candy said. Barbara's saying all of it's a smoke screen. Something is very wrong with our system when one party can dominate everything, in my opinion. Yeah, it's called lawlessness. It's called heading on down the end times timeline. Sally said, why would President Trump need to testify? They know they're responsible for this peaceful protest. Well, and of course, other things that have come out. Let me see if I can get this. I meant to put it up here, but I don't know that I got it. Let me get this one thing. And this we know, and this nobody, of course, is talking about, because, why talk about the truth, right? They've already made their minds up. It's like with the impeachment. They don't want to hear the truth. The truth isn't important. But we can't forget that this is from the New York Times. The Capitol Police were told not to use their most aggressive tactics ahead of the January 6th riot, despite warnings of violence in which Congress itself is the target, according to a new report by an internal investigator. And people are saying the person, who held all this back was Nancy Pelosi. If you want to find out what happened on January 6th, let's start with Nancy Pelosi. Put her on the stand. And of course, that's never going to happen. And it's halftime. Thank you for reminding me, Judy. And if everybody would please share this, that would be great. Please retweet, share, whatever you do. Let's see. Brian said, and Liz Cheney is falling right into the Democrat trap to make sure Republicans don't take back the House. And you know what, Brian? It just shows you she's a rhino. She's a Republican in name only. That's all that she is. And people know that, right? And Kevin McCarthy, I don't think you can trust Kevin, but right now he's what we have. Sally said, so that's why Ashley Abbott was shot. Probably, yeah. Shot when she had nothing in her hands and no visible sign of anything that could hurt anyone. And we need to talk to that person who shot her and ask that person why they shot her. All right. Pelosi will go down in history as the most do-nothing speaker, Chicago Pops says. Well, she should go down as even worse than that. Sally said, I don't trust McCarthy either. And I wish Whitmer and the FBI would be charged. Yeah. Well, and of course, what Rue's talking about is they're saying now that whole thing about, there were threats against Whitmer's life. There are accusations that the whole thing was set up by the FBI. Can I prove that? Is there facts on that? Not right now that I've seen, but who can you trust? They fixed it and now send private members to take sandwiches. You can do that. I don't know what that is. That was probably from down below. I know, but several missions have gone here to feed. The homeless. Okay, you're talking about the homeless again. Sissy said, yeah, you can't right now. Like in California, you really can't feed the homeless, supposedly, because it's not allowed. But that's why the church needs to take it over legally and do it. We all need to pray and rebuke this evil, lying spirit of lawlessness that hangs heavy over DC and all of the blue state leaders, Sissy said. I'm not sure Pops are rewriting and lying about history now. That's true, Sally. So she may go down as the best Speaker of the House because changing history. Pelosi has done a lot. It's just negative stuff towards Trump, Mike said. Absolutely. And I have something here from yesterday. Let me see here if I can find this really quickly. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I want you to hear what Jim Jordan has to say, because I think he pretty much puts it all into perspective. Because when Nancy said, no, Jim Banks and Jim Jordan, they can't be on the committee for January 6th. Here's what he had to say in response.
Jim Jordan.
Thank you, Jim. The leader and Jim are exactly right. This has always been about politics, and today's actions of the speaker just confirm that, but frankly, and I've said this before, what else are they going to talk about? I mean, they're so focused on the January 6th committee. What else are they going to talk? They're going to talk about crime, the fact that crime is up in every major urban area in this country. They're going to talk about the border crisis. I mean, think about this. March was the highest month on record for illegal crossings until April. April was the highest month on record until May. May was the highest month on record until June. Can't talk about that. They're going to talk about inflation. They're going to talk about the fact that the price of eggs is up, the price of milk is up, the price of bread is up, the price of gas is up, the price of an airline ticket is up, the price of the price of everything is up. They can't talk about that. So they're going to be partisan, and they're going to focus on this. But as the leader said, and as Mr. Banks said, I don't think they're going to address the fundamental question. The fundamental question of why wasn't there a proper security presence at the Capitol that day? They're not going to do that. And only one person can answer that question. Only one. Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. My hunch is the reason they don't want to address that question, my hunch is because what happened all last year? The Democrats normalized anarchy. They normalized rioting and looting. And when rioters and looters attacked our law enforcement personnel, when rioters and looters destroyed small businesses, what did Democrats do? They went out and raised money to bail them out of jail, and they continue to talk about defunding the police, and in fact did that in all these major urban areas, which is why crime is up. So they don't want to talk about that stuff. They just want to be partisan. They just want to continue to attack the former president. They want to play their political game. So I applaud Leader McCarthy for saying we're going to do our job. We're going to continue to work and get to the bottom and answer the questions that the leader raised, the questions that, frankly, the American people want answers to.
Yeah, and I hate to see what's happening so far in that people are getting sent to prison. That one guy got sent to prison for 8 months when Antifa, BLM. I haven't seen anything with any of those people being sent to jail or anything else. Why is it that they're being discriminated against? It's in unequal justice, inequality, whatever you want to call it. Now, Pelosi did put Adam Schiff on the committee. So here we go again. She's got her, I'm trying to not say a bad word here. She's got her dog back on, the same dog that was on the impeachment, the same dog that was on with the Supreme Court. Oh, I keep seeing this in my mind. I want to say the word and I just won't. And now he's back again. She picks him to do her dirty work like she did in Kavanaugh. It's the same thing. This is what she does. All right. We never know those questions. Yeah. Well, the only thing that I want McCarthy and them to do is find out who killed Ashley Babbitt and why was she killed. And the other question, okay, one more question. Why did those police and everybody at the Capitol Police, why did you let them in? Why did you let them in? And if you let them in, why is that a crime now? I don't know what crimes that were committed by some people after they got in, but when you open the doors or you don't stop people and you let them in, which we did see some video, which appeared to be the Capitol Police letting them in, then whose fault is that? It shouldn't be the people that got in. It should be those people who allowed them in. And those people perhaps should be fired. All right. Now, I want to show you, this is a short video. This is from a local school board. I want to switch to the topic of kids right now. This is the local school board. And let me get back to where I want to go. And this is in California. And this is to sort of like tell parents around the country, this is what your kids are looking forward to when they go back to school. Some woman was giving directions of rooms in the building. Ruth said, yep, can't let the truth get in the way. Exactly. Jesus' life matters, Mike said. All right. Now, first of all, there's going to be just a typical father, don't know who he is, who speaks out at the school board. You will notice that every person sitting on the board is masked up. They had said earlier that they didn't want to talk about masks and they weren't going to address it or anything else. And then right after this father, you're going to hear Pastor Tim Thompson address the school board. Pastor Thompson is pretty much an activist that's in California, vaccine Vinny. He also is somebody who was arrested at one point in Sacramento for speaking out. Wasn't doing anything wrong, but he's a big guy, and they decided to arrest him. That's all on tape. And he has kids, so he deals with the school board all the time. And I think it's pretty fitting for him. So let me roll tape for you, and you can watch this whole thing. It's a few minutes long.
I don't so much have a statement as much as I have questions. I'd like to know from each and every one of you, how many of you have students in the public school TV? You don't have to answer that. Okay, think about it. The other thing I'd like to know is the science that you're using, what basis are you using in applying these mask mandates? I'd like to know that. I don't know if you can answer that now. That's it. That's all I want to know.
Because of the Brown Act, we're not allowed to respond back to you. I'm sorry. We wish we could many times, but we're not allowed to.
The other thing I'd like to say is my daughter will not be wearing a mask at Great Oak High School. And I'd like to know what the options are. And I'd like to think that all these parents here are likely in the same position I am, that they're not going to be putting masks on their kid at school. And when you see that enrollment start to drop and the money starts to suck down the system, you're going to be singing a different tune.
Next up, we have Tim Thompson.
This is Pastor Tim Thompson.
Well, hello, members of the board. I want to thank you for practically nothing today. The way you've been handling yourself is a travesty to this entire community. I want to tell you that according to the Department of Health and Human Services, the COVID-19 virus has had an overall survivability rate of 99.8% globally, which increases to 99.97% for persons under the age of 70, on a par with the seasonal flu. If you don't understand this, you haven't been using that lump 3 feet above your rear end, okay? It's very simple. This is an attack on our culture. It's an attack on our children. It's an attack on our American way of life, and we will not put up with it. If you will not make a change, we will make a change with those seats that are right there, because you won't be in them anymore. I'll tell you this, I've been doing this for much longer than just COVID. I am no stranger to what goes on in the public school system. I want to fight what's going on, not just with the mask, but what's going on with the sexual indoctrination of our children. I come to the school board meetings, and what do you tell me? You tell me to go up to Sacramento because you don't have anything to do with this. Oh, we're just a school board. Go to the state. So we go up to the state. I've done this dance so long. Go to the state. What do they tell us? Oh, well, you know what? You have to go back to your local school board because they're the ones with the control. So we come back to you. We don't have any control. This is what you guys do. You point the fingers in opposite directions. Nobody ever wants to take accountability. Those days are over with. Now, I'll tell you this. Here's what happened last time I was here. Steve Lohner was the only man with a backbone that was here that day. He said, I want us to at least have the conversation. Mr. Skumowitz, Mrs. Hinkson, and Mrs. Broach, all three of you were cowards and wouldn't even voice your opinion. You're cowards, and I'm not afraid to tell you. You're cowards, and you need to be replaced. Okay? You have a moment to redeem yourself, though. Item M on your agenda today. You three especially need a vote to open the schools with no masks, no social distancing. This is enough, and you need to make the decision to do what's right. Okay? And I heard you, Mrs. Broach, I heard you say, hey, listen, you know, we would voice our opinion, but we don't really think the state cares what we have to say. Even though the superintendent said you should go let your voice be heard. So if you're telling us to go let our voice be heard to the state, and you're saying that the state doesn't even care what you have to say, do you see the hypocrisy of what's going on? Enough of the hypocrisy. You three better make a stand for these parents in this community, and if you don't, you're being replaced.
Ah, hey, Bruce, good to see you. If you look closely in the front row, I don't know if you can see that man who's holding maybe a 2-year-old, and there is a stroller there. He's wearing a mask. The child is wearing a mask. There is a woman who comes in later that you can see. She's wearing a mask. And as it turns in later, when they start to say, these are our new people who are coming in the school district, everybody there who was in the school district, everybody there who was a new member of the school district, everybody was wearing a mask. It was pretty sickening. And those people that you saw on the board, everything was, I'm sorry, we can't talk about that. We're not allowed. I can't look your direction. I have to have a mask on. I mean, my gosh. And these people, here's the thing. Unless those board members are replaced, absolutely nothing is going to change. And Tim Thompson, again, as I said, he's been dealing with this for so long, and they're in there fighting. I really don't think they're going to listen. I think they're going to follow Dr. Fo Cha-Ching or the Pediatrics Association, who is now saying children 2 and above should be wearing a veil. And that's what they're going to go by. And so what do you need to do if you're a parent and that happens? Think about homeschool and taking your children out of public schools. That's exactly what you should do, because exactly what Tim Thompson said, when the money starts going away, when there's no more money to pay teachers, when those stupid board members and their stupid decisions, I should say, when they don't get their money and there's nobody to talk to, then they're going to go away too. So they've got to replace them anyway, and then pull your kids out of school. What a guy. Veil wearers have lost their minds, and they're continuing to lose their minds and continuing to try to bring it all back again to us, to make us comply with their craziness. I would like to know if schools are using this program. Canada is using this program, and everybody can go look at that on the link that Gary provided. All right. Good morning, Susan, everyone. Very late. That's child abuse. Stephanie said, yeah, Stephanie, please go back and listen to the replay too. We answered some questions at the beginning that you might be interested in. So anyway, let me, where we were yesterday in Genesis is now off of my screen. Does anybody remember? Oh, wait, that's right. We finished Genesis. What am I talking about? Does anybody where would you like to go now in the Bible? Would you like to go into Exodus? Or do you want to go to another part of the Bible? Where does anybody want to go? If you can sort of quickly tell me where you would like to go. My granddaughter was saying her friends are now fighting with their parents about not wanting the badge. Wow, gosh. Veils cause super low 0.2 oxygen to their heads. Yeah, well, and that will keep them quiet, Bruce, won't it? And isn't that the goal? Keep them quiet. Ken says Exodus. Hi, Stephanie said true child abuse for sure. Exodus, the kids get fat. Okay, so it looks like Deuteronomy. Okay. Anybody else? I've got 2 Exodus, 1 Deuteronomy. Anybody else? Going once? Exodus is a lot. There's a lot of things about what you should and shouldn't do and all that. So that's a lot of that. Okay, well, we can start there. I might change when we get to there, because it's a lot about the tabernacle and on and on and on, and specific rules. So it might, some people may not like that. All right, so let's go into Exodus, and we'll start there. And you choose. Okay, we'll start with Exodus, and again, I might change it later on, depending on where we go. Bible auction. There you go. There you go, Ruth. My Bible auction. Okay. Israel's suffering in Egypt. Now, these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Egypt. Each man in his household came with Jacob, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All those who were descendants of Jacob were 70 persons, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, all his brothers, and all that generation. But the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph, and he said to his people, look, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they should multiply. And it happened in the event of war that they also join our enemies and fight against us, and so go out of the land. Therefore they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were in dread of the children of Israel. So the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar, in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service in which they made them serve was with rigor. Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shipra, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the duties of a midwife for the Hebrew women and see them on the stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill them. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the male children alive. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing and saved the male children alive? And the midwife said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them. Therefore, God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very mighty. And so it was because the midwives feared God that he provided households for them. So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. Exodus chapter 2. Moses is born. And a man of the house of Levi went and took as wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she had hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion for him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, go. So the maiden went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him, and the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, because I drew him out of the water. Now it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting, and he said to the one who did the wrong, why are you striking your companion? Then he said, who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? So Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. Then the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they came to rule their father, he said, how is it that you have come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. So he said to his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread. Then Moses was content to live with the man, and he called Zipporah, his daughter, to Moses, and she bore him a son named Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. Now it happened in the process of time that the king of Egypt died. Then the children of Israel groaned because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry came up to God because of the bondage. So God heard their groan, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God acknowledged them. Okay, let's stop there, and we'll pick this up again tomorrow. Judy said, can you imagine giving up a child to save his life? I know, my gosh. Ruth, who used to be Rue, what was it? The artist known as Rue, who's now Ruth, said midwifery is a funny word. It sure is. The tabernacle. Yeah, the tabernacle and all the things. One thing that we're going to learn through, if, and I know you know this, I'm preaching to the choir for some of you, but when we go to further into Exodus and then to Leviticus and all of that, you can see how absolutely detail-oriented and disciplined that God is. Everything down to the last detail of that tabernacle was told to the people and how to make it, how it should happen, how much, how wide the curtain should be, how this, that. I mean, it's amazing just how disciplined God truly is. And if we are to be in the likeness of God, we could surely benefit from having some of that discipline that God has. Because it's great. I didn't notice you changed your name. Yeah, I noticed that right away. Rue is now Ruth. Such transformation that takes place. So anyway, anybody have any other questions? Can't wait to see heaven, Melanie said. I just long for the rapture every day and pray for it every single solitary day. There's more word coming out from different pastors about things that are happening, things that happened in Israel the other day, what they found, the wall of what am I trying to say? The temple. Thank you. The two temples that were destroyed, they found, we can learn a lot from the temple. They found the wall of the temple. If you want to hear that YouTube video from the pastor who was talking about that, let me know. I can send it to you. Thank you for your willingness to read scripture. Always the best part. Thank you, Jules. All right, everybody. Remember, I will be out all next week. I will be here tomorrow. So come for the questions that you may have tomorrow. Prayer for the 27th, please, endoscopy day for Judy. Everybody pray for Judy that they will find that God has completely healed her. That's what I'm praying for. I hope you are praying for Judy every single solitary day. We need to pray for each other. Pray for Judy's complete healing. Ruth said, love you uns. Thank you, Ruth. And everybody's praying for Judy. Thank you so much. And we'll give you, have a blessed day, everyone. We'll give you a minute to talk to each other before we go. I will see you back here tomorrow. And then I will be your questions in. Send them to Susan@SusanKnowles.com. Put in the subject matter questions for Susan. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow. God bless.